We all love a good story, don't we? A good old fairy tale. And who's better at that than Disney, of course? But what if I told you that the twisted fairy tales were closer to the originals than you thought? The originals that mostly, not all, but mostly, were by the Brothers Grimm. Who, by the way, they aren't the Brothers Grimm's tales. They are tales that they collected throughout Germany and France and other places. I'm going to do a video on that. But the twisted fairy tales are actually a lot closer than the Disney stories. Obviously, you shouldn't go telling your kids these stories because that will frighten them to death. But today, I'm going to tell you my favourite Grimm's fairy tale story. So, are you ready, my haunted little pickles? So, this story is called All Kinds of Fur, and I am fairly certain most of you won't have heard of it, because I only heard of it because I am obsessed with old folklore and old tales and the narration of old, like, storytelling. It has got a name for, like, word of mouth storytelling. I can't remember off the top of my head because I didn't make notes today because I just know this story so well. So I'm just going off the fly today. Sorry, I have an itch. So, All Sorts of Fur is about a girl called Alara. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It's not an English name. Anyway, so there's a kingdom and there's a king and a queen. And of course, sadly, the queen falls ill. Isn't it the way? And she makes her husband promise. Promise me you will only marry again if you can find a wife that has beautiful golden hair like mine and is just as beautiful and radiant as me. And of course he promises because she's on a deathbed and he's going to say what he needs to say to make her happy. So sadly then she dies and a few years go by and the king hasn't found anyone that looks like his wife or half as beautiful with the same beautiful golden hair and beautiful eyes and fair skin. But you know who does look like his wife? I bet you can all guess. His daughter, Elora. So I don't know if the story is inferring that the mother aims for that to be the case. I think what the wife, or the queen, the dead queen, sorry, was getting at was she just didn't want him to marry again. And she probably thought, oh, he's not going to choose our daughter. And there's no one else as beautiful as me. So we just won't marry again. That's not how men work, is it? So, he says to his servants, well, is it not okay for me to marry my daughter? And even they're like, no. But you're the king, so can't stop you. So, he tells his poor daughter this, and she's like, don't really want to, but she can't say no, because A, it's the dad, and B, it's the king. What's she gonna do? And at this point, she's like quite young, a young child, like maybe early teens, maybe. So what's she gonna do? But she's very clever. She says, okay, before I consider marriage to anyone, I require 3 dresses. A dress as beautiful and golden as the sun, a dress as radiant and bright as the moon, and a dress that shines like the stars. Not thinking her dad's going to do this because everything's expensive and we're going to get the material and make these beautiful, wonderful art pieces of dresses, but where there's a will, there's a way. So he goes to the best craftsman he can find and he gets these dresses made. And she's like, oh no. So she goes, okay, I require one more thing. Because she's thinking now, I require a fur coat, a mantle of many furs. I want fur from every animal in our kingdom to be included in this fur coat. And of course he tells his huntsman to go and get them. So there's all sorts of different beasts' fur on this coat, and it's made out of all this crazy different amounts of fur, and I think there's even like an animal head as a hood in some of the stories, so I can imagine the sight. So she gets it, and then the king's like, right, okay, I can marry you now. And she's like, oh no. So she runs away, obviously. So before she leaves, she like gets some soot from the fireplace and makes herself all dirty looking, puts the fur coat on, packs the dresses, and just legs it, basically. She doesn't have a plan other than just to escape. So she's running away, and at this point it's dark and it's cold, so she finds like a hollowed out tree and hides in there. The next day, it's another kingdom she's got to, by the way. So the next day, she's in this other kingdom, she's asleep in this hollowed out tree, and the king of this kingdom, his huntsmen are hunting and looking for game or whatever, and they come across this crazy looking animal in a hollowed out tree, and they're like, oh my god, what is this beast? Let's take it back to the castle. And of course, as they go to take the beast out of the tree, they realise, oh, it's a girl. And she says, please take pity on me. I am without mother or father. Don't kill me. Please take me with you. So they do, and they think, okay, well, you can go work in the kitchen, sweeping and cleaning and all that stuff. So she does. So she ends up living in this like little cupboard area, sort of Harry Potter style, like under the stairs. It's described as having no light, and it's a little cubby under the stairs. So basically, same deal as Harry Potter. So she's living in this little tiny cupboard space where she's allowed to sleep and keep her belongings, and that's it. So after, I think it's a few years, she's feeling a bit sorry for herself because she is actually a princess, and she's working in the kitchens where she's getting shouted at and probably hit in the head with shoes and not treated very well, but she don't want to marry her dad. So she's doing that, and she's like, oh, what am I going to do? This isn't the life I want. And one day, there is a royal banquet and a ball, and she's very excited. So she asks the cook, if I'm careful not to be seen and I hide, can I go and look? And he says, yeah, just be back in half an hour to help me do the soup for the king. She says, okay. So she doesn't do that though. She goes and gets one of these amazing dresses and goes up. And of course, because she's had a wash and she's not all dirty and dishevelled looking, and she is a beautiful princess when she's wearing one of these gowns, she looks right at home. And everyone thinks, oh, I've not seen her before, but she's so beautiful and well dressed. She must be the daughter of a king. She is, but no one knows who. So everyone just lets her right in, doesn't think anything of it. The king spots her and is like, oh, she's really pretty. And he has a dance with her. Well, of course, she's got to get back down to the kitchen. So after the dance, she curtsies and legs it back. He turns around and is like, where'd she go? And she just disappeared. And because no one else actually knows her, he doesn't know how to find her, so he's just left wondering. She goes down to the kitchen, well, to her little cupboard, gets changed back into her fur coat, and puts some soap back on her face, makes herself look all dirty and like normal to them. Helps make the king's soup. The cook goes about doing other stuff. She finishes the king's soup, but before she finishes it, she takes a little gold ring that she brought with her before she escaped. She puts it in the bowl and lets the soup be taken to the king. Now, when the king's eating it, he thinks it's so delicious, and then he spots the ring and is like, where's that come from? So he sends for the cook. The cook's like, I didn't do it, it's not me. So the king says, well, who made the soup? And the cook says, well, I have to be truthful, it wasn't me this time, Your Majesty. It was Catskin, because that's what they called her. Called her Catskin because she's got all this crazy fur on, and she's all dirty, looking probably like a stray cat. So they call her Catskin. Okay, call Catskin up. I want to speak to her. So, call her up. He says, did you make the soup? She says, yes, Your Majesty. And he says, well, how did this ring get in here? And she says, I don't know. I'm only good for being shouted at and having shoes thrown at my head. It's genuinely what she says. So, eventually, he gives up, sends her back to the kitchen. A few months go by, there's another ball. Same deal. She asks the cook, please can I go? And I won't be seen. And because nothing bad happened last time, he lets her. He's like, yeah, okay, just be back in half an hour. Same deal again. Everyone thinks she's beautiful because she's had a wash and, you know, she's in one of these beautiful, amazing dresses. And everyone thinks she's amazing. The king finds her again, dances with her again, and again, Turns around, she's gone after the dance. So he's really frustrated now, like, who is she and where does she keep going? And again, she goes back into the kitchen, gets out of her beautiful dress, puts this fur coat back on, gets all dirty looking again, makes the king's soup, and again, in the bag that she packed with all the dresses, she takes a necklace that she brought, puts that in the bowl. And again, the king eats the soup, sees this piece of jewellery and is like, this is very odd now. So again, sends to the cook. Cook's like, I didn't cook it. And the king's like, I bet you I know who did. Send Catskin up. Again, Catskin just replies, sorry, Your Majesty, I do not know where this necklace came from. I am only good for having shoes thrown out my head. And so again, a few months go by. There's another ball. The cook says, you must do some sort of witchcraft because the king likes your soup more than mine. You make it again this time. So she's like, okay. And again, she says, okay, before it's time to do that, can I go to the ball and just look? And again, because each time nothing bad's happened, he's like, yeah, okay, just be back in half an hour to make the king's soup. Okay. So again, she puts on a beautiful dress, she washes her face, she's all radiant and beautiful. This time, the king has a plan. He's ready this time, he knows what's going to happen. So, he makes the dance go on longer. He's telling the musicians or whatever, like, make the dance go longer. Because he wants to dance with her a bit more. And while they're dancing, he sneakily takes the ring that he found in the soup bowl and puts it on the girl's ring finger. But she's none the wiser because she's just enjoying the dance. He's done it very sneakily. And the dance finishes, she runs off. But she's running behind because the king's made the dance last longer. So she doesn't have time to get changed, so she just throws the fur coat back over this beautiful dress, makes her face all dirty, but because she's in a rush, she misses part of her hand. And which part do we think that is? So she goes and makes the king's soup. And this time, there's a brooch she brought from home. She puts the brooch in the soup bowl, makes the soup goes to the king. And again, the king eats it. Oh, look, there's a piece of jewellery in my food. Sends for the cook. The cook goes, oh, well, send for Catskin. Catskin comes up and again says, I don't know how that jewellery got in there, but because she missed part of her hand, making herself all dirty, covered in soot, what can the king see on her finger? He sees the ring. So he tells her to come closer, and she wants to run away. So to stop her, he grabs the coat, and it shows part of her dress. So he stands up, takes the coat off her, and reveals this beautiful princess that's still dirty, but it's like, go get a wash. She has a wash, and she's this beautiful, radiant princess, and the king falls madly in love with her, and says, you'll never to leave my side again. And he's a nice king, so they do actually live happily ever after. So, I'm pretty sure you haven't heard this story, but it is one of my favourite stories because, yes, it is messed up. All Grimm stories are messed up. If you find the original versions, they're all a bit wacky. But I love this story because there are interpretations out there. Feel free to look them up. But you're on my channel, so you're going to hear my ideas of the interpretations of this story. So obviously it represents incest. I don't know if I can say that on air, but I sort of said it. And like a loss of power. Because again, she's a very young child when her dad tries to marry her. And instead of giving in to the helplessness and just giving up and going, yeah, well, he's the king, he's my dad, our best dad. No. She uses her brain. She tries to delay it. That doesn't work. She tries to get him to give time to see sense. That doesn't work. So she realises that doesn't work. Okay. She formulates another plan very quickly. Okay, I need to escape. She gets him to make her a disguise to escape. And then, to her advantage, I think this is just a good twist of fate that other king's men find her. And she makes use of the time and space she's got in the kitchen, making sure the cook gets on with her, allows her a few graces here and there. And she comes up with this really clever plan to sort of charm the king and sort of get him to be curious and fall in love with her and marry her so she still gets to be a princess. I think it shows strength of character and resilience and will and keen intelligence from this princess. And I like it because she wasn't actually rescued. She made it look like the king is like, oh yes, I want to marry her, but she actually did all the work underneath the surface. And I think she had a lot of self-awareness, and she changed her own situation with intelligence and probably a lot of grace in those dresses. I won't mind a dress like the sounds of those. Those are my thoughts on it. There's probably more to it. I don't want to keep it too long though. If you do want to hear more of my opinions of any Grimm's fairy tale story, feel free, because I could talk about them for days. I am doing more Grimm stories. Probably a few that you have heard of, probably a few that you haven't. They're all messed up. They've all got twisted meanings, but I like them, and of course you must be, because you're really listening to him. So, have a lovely rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed the story, and I'll see you soon, my haunted little pickles.